Okay, I'm going to call the meeting to order at 5:02. We have 2 people remote and 2 in Wardsboro. Funny thing about the Wardsboro meeting is that the 2 here are from Dover. So, and there's somebody in the waiting room. Oh no, there's something happening up top.
We've got Meredith and Alan Block.
Yeah, go ahead and let them in because they should have been in before I called it to order. So anyways, we'll call the meeting to order at 5:02, I was told. Our first item of business was discussion with the attorney amending the Articles of Agreement, timing for the vote and article language. And is there somebody else to admit now?
Oakley.
Okay, so anyways, I was hoping the attorney would be here at 5. Bill, is he still coming?
Just got a text from him. I just resent him the link. He was having trouble getting on.
Okay, so anyways, there should have been, everybody should have gotten in their packet a memo from the attorney. It came late, and I don't know why I can't find it. Mark, is it right? Is it right there under you?
He sent it. Bill sent it in an email earlier today.
Yeah. Bill, you didn't have any of those printed up for us, did you?
Yes, they should be in that packet of stuff that was left with Tammy.
Not in this packet.
Yeah, okay, I tell you what, it's not here.
It's in the meeting docs folder
Yeah,
for anybody online.
can somebody pull it? Dwight is here. Can somebody pull it up and just put it up on the screen for us then? Andy, did you get a copy of it?
Yeah, I got everything Bill sent along, and been reading on it. Yeah.
Okay. Tammy, do you have it, or can you?
I looked, I didn't see it.
No, I mean, do you have it on the computer that you could do a screen share with us?
Sure.
Dwight, and Kate and Laura, did you guys get to see it?
Yeah. Yes.
Dwight?
Well, I saw it, but I didn't read it. So.
Okay. Well, at least you're honest.
Yes and no.
Sorry, my screen is sharing.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
If you want.
Thank you. So Mark is sharing his screen with me. But so it's so Bill, the attorney put up together exactly what he wanted us to have for a warning, which Tammy's looking for. And it basically says the legal voters of the River Valley Unified School District, consisting of the towns of Dover and Wardsboro, are hereby noticed and warned to meet at their respective polling locations hereinafter named on, and we have to put the date and the hours, to transact the following business by Australian ballot. And note, Articles 1 through 3 are proposed amendments to the Articles of Agreement for the River Valley's Unified School District. The format of the proposed amendment is as follows: wording in regular text is current language to be returned. Wording with strike through with a line through the middle of it is current language to be deleted. And wording in bold underline is proposed new language for the article. Article 1, shall the voters approve the following amendment to the River Valley Unified School District Agreement?
Added it.
Pardon?
It's not in the meeting doc
Oh,
folder.
can you send that to her? So, we're going to send it to Tammy so she can put it up so everybody can see it while we go through it. I'm sorry, just give us a couple minutes. Has the attorney signed on?
Yes, I'm here.
Hey, Christopher, how are you, sir?
I'm good. Yourself?
Oh, we're struggling a little with technology, but that's pretty typical for me. So we're going to put up the proposal you sent out to us. And I read through the warning, and I started reading the article of the first article. So as soon as we get that up, maybe you can just kind of run us through it quickly. I know
Be
we've...
happy to do that.
Pardon?
Be happy to do that.
Okay, I know we've beat you up on this a few times, but Mark is trying to send it to Tammy.
Oh, I already sent it.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Tammy's going to put it up for us.
I'm just trying to get it into the public folder. Don't know why it's not there.
That's not it, is it? That's not what you were just showing me.
The one on the left.
That one.
Oh, there you go.
Okay, so Chris, can you see that on the
I
screen?
gotta get it on.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I guess you can't see it there. I answered my own
I
question.
just have to share the screen.
It's really strange.
Hey, Richard,
Hey, Andrew.
while you're doing that, I have a couple questions for Chris.
Is there?
Mr. Leopold, can I ask those questions?
Well,
Why are you doing that?
I think it'd be good if we could review this first so that everybody kind of, because you had a chance to read it, not everybody else has. So your question may not make sense to people. It's not, you saw there were the questions and answers too, right? Correct?
I did.
That's on screen sharing.
It's, I don't know. It's not working. Go ahead, Andy.
So, Richard, who's the host of the meeting?
I am. I'm good.
If you make me the host, I can quickly bring up the document. Or make me co-host, I can quickly bring up the document.
We got,
And they are available in the meeting docs link. I don't know why they weren't showing up for you, Tammy. They're now there twice.
Bum, 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 ba-dum. Stand beside her and guide her.
he should. You should
Okay,
have posted
Chris, I
it
think
now.
you're Christopher. You're co-host.
Okay.
That's what Tammy just said.
Tammy, you've got to stop your share.
Yep. I gotta get back in.
Can you see that now,
Yes.
everyone? Okay.
What's the
Let me
big thing
move
in
it
the
up.
middle of it, though?
Start at the beginning, there's the introduction.
Okay, I read the first two paragraphs, Chris.
Right, so here's the first article. The first article is Article 9 regarding the composition of the school board, and all of the existing Article 9 is struck. And the new language provides as follows. The board's composed of 6 members as it is now, who are elected pursuant to the modified at-large model as authorized by, and then it references the 2 statutes in Title 16 that specifically authorize this approach. Since we last met, the legislature approved a comprehensive rewrite of Chapter 11, which is the chapter in Title 16 that deals with union school districts and unified union school districts. And that new rewrite specifically incorporated this method of representation. So that's one in that paragraph. The second paragraph provides that 3 seats on the board are allocated to each of the 2 forming school districts, Dover and Wardsboro, with individuals elected to fill those seats by an entire vote of the unified district pursuant to Section 730. It then has a transition provision that provides that this new modified at-large model is implemented beginning with the 2023 annual meeting as follows. School directors with terms that expire in 2023 and each succeeding year thereafter shall be elected according to the new modified at-large model. So when the two school directors this year have their terms expired, the new school directors, or the two directors you presently have, will be elected/re-elected according to the modified at-large model. Any questions about that article? Hearing none, I'll move on. Article 2 in the warning amends Article 10 in the Articles of Agreement for the school district. And it retains the first sentence of the article, and it strikes the remainder of the article because the remainder of the article deals with the initial election of school directors in terms of their terms and how they're allocated. Article 2 is really optional on your part. It is not essential to do this. You can look at Article 2, if you kept Article 10, it just essentially has a historical context in the Articles of Agreement. Or you can strike it because it's no longer relevant. Okay? Any questions? Article 3 amends Article 13, which deals with budgets, elections, and public questions. And the first paragraph of Article 3 is retained as is. And in the second paragraph, would strike the language following election of unified district board members shall be conducted by Australian ballot. And then it strikes the words with each town electorate choosing the board members from their town, period. It strikes that phraseology, and then it adds new language that says the requirements and timelines for candidate petitions for office shall follow 16 VSA 730A2, and then it provides that the ballots will be commingled as required by 16 VSA 742. Part of Article 3 could be, that first paragraph could be revised as well if you want. The first sentence could be struck. And again, that's first sentence relates to the first year of operation. So it's historical in that sense. It no longer has any current meaning or guidance to the board or the district. So again, as I said, you could strike it if you want, or retain it if you want. Are there any questions about the articles?
Well, Chris, maybe what we can do is, so there's 3 separate articles that we're going to present, or 3 separate questions. So each one will be voted on individually, yes or no, or will you vote for the whole package?
No, each one is, by law, you're required to vote for each one separately.
Okay, so let's just look at Article 1 first. So that's the one that we asked you to back in December to bring to us. It takes care. It addresses the issue we had if we want to be similar to what we were versus what was in there about reorganizing or reassigning after the census. So if we can focus on that one, does anybody have any issues with Article 1 as it's presented that we could put that on the ballot? Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, I still think this is the wrong method.
Okay. Does anybody else have any comments on it? Okay, then. Oh, go ahead, Andy.
So, I don't know when exactly to ask this question, but it might be here. How many signatures need to be on a nominating petition to get your name on the ballot as a school director? I think, Richie, you said 60, and I just wanted to confirm that with Mr. Leopold.
Yeah, there was something floating around.
I believe it is 60. I'll just have to check a minute. If you want the answer tonight, I'll have to.
Yeah, that would be helpful. I did look at the statute, and it looks like, at least for the forming vote, the district, there needed to be 60 signatures. And I'm guessing, I didn't see it specified for ongoing votes, but.
It's
Well,
usually
the statutes change, so if you go online,
Yeah,
you look at the statutes online, they're totally different now.
okay.
so. Andy, if we could kind of just, Chris, if you could hold that in the back of your mind for a second. I
Yeah.
have that note to ask later on. I want to just see which articles we want to move forward, and then ask questions, because I know there was also a question and answer sheet that you did for us. And I was hoping you could kind of just go through that with us to make sure our clerk and everybody's happy with that.
So, Richie, I hate to do this to you, but I'm still preparing for the election tomorrow. And if I could just raise some questions, I might not be able to stay here for this whole thing. Is that possible? And you don't have to answer them. You can write them down. I just have some thoughts and some questions to get out before I have to go take care of business here. Is that possible?
Yeah, go ahead, Andy.
Okay, so my one question there was how many signatures on a petition makes a big difference. Currently it's 1%, which in Dover is 14 and Wardsboro is a lot less. It'd be probably 17 signatures for the school district. 60, people have trouble getting that many now. 60's a bit onerous. Your timeline, if you, when you get to the timelines Chris proposed, if you have a vote in February, the petitions have to be in 30 days before the election. So if you wanted to have this vote in February, it would have to be actually in January. In order to get that warning done on time and signed and posted and give people time to get 60 signatures. Now, let's see, my other comments and questions. I was wondering if it was possible, Chris, if we elected directors by Australian ballot at our town meetings. Could we do that and commingle the ballots, have them transported to one town or the other, stored in the vault, commingled? Our annual meetings are the first Tuesday of March. Yours are the last Tuesday in March. Could we then take the commingled ballots at your annual school district meeting in the box, bring them to your meeting and count them by hand there? I don't see anything in the law that says you can't, but I'm just wondering if that's a possibility. That might make it much more doable. Regarding your Article 13 amendment, we changed the voting of the budget to from the floor, and you still have it here as Australian ballot, the way it originally read in the Articles of Agreement. The school district changed that. I was wondering if you knew that, or if it was possible to keep it that way. Let's see. And I was also wondering, so given everything I've read that you've sent, Chris, my two recommendations after speaking with Michelle would be that you elect your directors from the floor at the annual school district meeting, if that's possible. That would save a lot of headaches. If you need to do it by Australian ballot, the second choice would be have a separate ballot that is voted at both town meetings, commingled and saved to be counted by hand at your school district meeting. I have some numbers if you wanna do the Australian ballot at town meeting and commingle them and run them through the tabulator. It's probably $600 to program the tabulator. You're probably looking at $600 for printing ballots. Those aren't the mailing numbers. Those are just to hold an Australian ballot election using the tabulator. Yeah, that's about it. So that's about it. And I thank you for putting up with me and my limited time tonight.
Thank you, Andy. So let's go back to the second question, the second ballot question, which is to remove the historical stuff, I believe you said, Chris, and it's something we really don't have to do.
Yes.
So what does the board think of that? Does anybody have any strong opinions? Go ahead, Mark.
Leave it for historical context.
Anybody else? I'm going to agree with Mark, so don't let the earth shake too much, but not so much for the historical value, which is kind of cool, but I also think it's good because I think it's one less thing to confuse people in the future. Anybody else from the board? I guess not.
Looks like Alan
Ellen
has it.
Block.
I
has it.
concur.
You're good with that, Laura, so we won't do Article 2?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Alan.
Oh, I just didn't understand why it was unnecessary now. I didn't get why the
Because
whatever was historical about it had gone away.
It's already
It's
already happened, so it was in there because it explained how we were going to do it after, this was voted on before the first election. So it really doesn't need to be there anymore because it's already happened and it's never going to happen again. Nobody's going to have a 4-year term anymore.
Got it. Okay, thank you. Sorry.
No problem, sir. Okay, then let's strike that, Christopher, if you don't mind. We're going.
I don't mind. That's why I presented it to you.
Okay, so let's go to Article 3, which I had some concerns about, and it sounds like some other people did too. So, Mark, go ahead. I'm going to save you from raising your hand.
Well, what's not crossed out, what Chris did not cross out, but said we could take out the first sentence, I would leave in again for historical context, and then the annual budget vote.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody else from the board?
So if I could just interject,
Go ahead, sir.
this is the language that was in the Articles of Agreement that was provided to me. So when Mr. McLean spoke, that's the first time I've heard that you have revised the articles to provide that you're approving the budget from the floor.
Yeah, we did that right off in the beginning. We were told that the first one we had to do that. We had to vote by ballot, but after that we could change, and we did change fairly quickly after that. So we also changed because it required everybody to be elected by ballot, and Wardsboro had a strong history of electing from the floor, and they wanted to go back to that. So we made that change too. I think we've made a couple changes. Those are the ones that stick out in my head. You go ahead.
Rich,
Oh,
I would just add, Chris is following what I gave him. So if I gave him something that was incorrect, Chris was just following that.
Yeah.
So the budget vote, I believe that was an Australian ballot article that we voted on to change it to the floor. I don't remember if we changed the Articles of Agreement though. And then the vote to let Wardsboro elect from the floor was just a board vote.
I'm sorry, you're right. Yeah, so Chris, I lied to you. The article to allow Wardsboro, we were told, I think by you, that we could just do that as a board vote. But the we did do a ballot vote to allow us to present the budget from the floor. So we'd like to keep that in there. So we'll get you that we'll get you that language. But I think we're gonna need to have, because of the way we're voting now, to allow everybody to vote. Again, Andy brought up, we have two choices, and I think the board needs to make a decision. Do we vote from the floor at the annual meeting, or do we have a ballot vote ahead of time? And then vote. So what do people think about that? Go ahead, Mark.
Ballot, Australian ballot, 100%
For the vote.
for the vote.
Yeah, but and then do we do it ahead of time and then hold it? I mean, I don't know why we would hold it for a month.
That I'm not sure of. I'm assuming that was a procedural action because of how busy Andy was going to be. That would be my guess, but I don't know if he's still on.
Yeah,
There he
Andy,
is.
Yeah.
can you
Yeah.
answer?
Just actually, I mean, I understand why Andy might want to do it that way. It is precluded by Chapter 11 now. Any Australian ballot questions have to be commingled, and the vote has to be completed within 24 hours of the polls closing. So you
Okay.
don't have to count the ballots anymore that night, the way they used to have to count them and the way they still are in many areas. But as of July 1 of this summer, you're now required to count the ballots and report the results 24 hours after the polls closed.
Okay. All right. Well, in that case, the only trouble with doing it on town meeting day, right? The good thing is people are already coming out, and but you're going to want to think about that count. You're going to want to think about hand counting it and having people present. And you're going to want to think about using the tabulator and how you want to handle that. It's just going to make for a very long evening. You could do it on a day that is not your town meeting days. You know, you could, I suppose you could do it on your annual meeting day, but the problem with that is you have to maintain two polling places, one in Dover and one in Wardsboro. So if your meeting is in Dover, the people you get to maintain the polling place all day don't get to attend the school district meeting, and they're typically people who want to attend the school district meeting. Just complicates things. From the floor would eliminate all that. You know, if we could do that at the school district annual meeting, it would eliminate all that. But, you know, that's a decision you'll make, and we'll deal with it.
Yeah, hang on one second. Hey, Chris, first, so just as I'm reading this, then, Article 13, if we've already voted for to do the budget, so that first paragraph can come right out, correct?
Well, it can come out of this. I mean, obviously, if you present an amendment to Article 13, you'd want to, I think, present both paragraphs, how they currently read, Rich,
Okay.
and then the amendment that you're making to paragraph 2.
Okay.
When I sent my comments to Rich and I believe Bill, or maybe the board, I forget, it had a detailed explanation and copy of the articles as they exist today, and a history of the amendments that we've made and how we made them and when. So if you search your inbox, you'll find all that stuff.
Okay, so the only thing I'm thinking, though, everybody, is, again, like I try to make these decisions into smaller chunks so we can actually get them done. I think this article says election of unified board members shall be conducted by Australian ballot. the requirements and timelines for candidates' petitions shall follow 16 in the ballot. So it's not setting the date or how it's going to work or where it's going to work. It's just saying that it will be by Australian ballot. So I think that allows us, if that passes and we know we're going to elect by Australian ballot, and then we can work with Andy to decide, do we want to do it in May? Do we want to do it in January? Do we want to do it in February? And I think that gives us a time to do it. We don't need that part of the equation right now. We just need to know, do we want to elect by Australian ballot or do we want to elect from the floor? So I think I need to get the board to weigh in on that. So can Marcus expressed his opinion. I think you said ballot, right, Mark?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so can the other board members just tell me how you think?
This is Kate. I based on what Andy's saying, it sounds like it would be a much easier process if we did it from the floor. And I think that allows everybody who wants to participate in the process, hopefully to be able to, pending any major pandemics or anything like that.
Laura or Dwight?
I want as many people as possible to vote. And so if we were doing it from the floor, when that meeting would be really important to me. And maybe, taking out some ads in the paper or something explaining what the vote is happening.
Yeah, again, let's not get into the minutia of how we're going to do it. Let's get...
Well, the how actually is important in terms of whether or not I'm down with voting from the floor. So I could be okay with voting from the, I could go either way, but if we're voting from the floor, I want to talk about the time and promotion of the question.
Well, again, we're just talking about election of the board, and we're going to have to do that either way we go. Timing and how we do it is all going to have to discuss once we kind of get how we're going to do it. Is Dwight still on? Dwight, what do you think?
Sorry, they're trying to unmute. Well, I'd be in favor from the floor. I think that's something we're familiar with in Wardsboro, and I think the attendance at our last meetings have been strong, and that's a good opportunity to kind of meet candidates, and I think it obviously makes sense with what Andy's saying as well. So I would be in favor from the floor.
Is Chad in? Okay, so if I count my fingers, I think I have 3 from the floor and 1 from ballot, right?
Say something else?
Well, hang on a second. I'm just trying to confirm. Am I wrong or am I right? Kate, Dwight, and Laura said from the floor, and Mark said by ballot.
I said I could go either way.
Okay, so okay,
so my preference would be so I would not want to I would not want to go from the floor on a Tuesday night with no promotion of the question. I would not think that was a good idea.
Well, it's going to have promotion because we have to warn it and we have to send out the booklet because it's going to be done while we're discussing the budget and everything else. So, it's not like we're just going to say, hey, next Tuesday, let's have an election. Come and
nominate.
What
did you say we're going to have to send out, Rich?
The booklet that we send out for the meeting, the annual meeting. We send the booklet out that shows the budget and shows the questions that we're going to discuss and when the meeting is and when the pre-meetings are. So there's a lot of promotion with it. It's going to be part of the annual meeting.
Yeah. Okay.
So I guess, what do you all want to do? We need to give Chris an answer so we can write this up. Do we want to do it by ballot? And I told Mark he could say something. I'm sorry, Mark, you got to remind me.
So we have roughly 2,000 voters in this district. If we're lucky, we're going to have 30 or 40 people at an annual meeting. You're not giving the voters an opportunity. Our meetings are not necessarily at a time when everybody can attend, whether they're on evening or during the day. I just think it's completely, absolutely inappropriate to do it. We're cutting out, not only are we cutting out voters from being able to have a say, we're cutting out people who may be interested in running from being able to be on the board because they are working in the middle of the day or have childcare issues at night.
The meetings are at night. They're not in the middle of the day. So
well, that's what I said. We have childcare issues at night. I mean, you're eliminating people to I don't know. I'm not sure what you're gaining out of it. You're not gaining participation at all. You're eliminating people. So.
Okay, so how does the board want to vote? All right, no, vote. What does the board want to do? We need to make a decision because we need to move this forward.
And I don't know if what Andy.
I think Andy's got his hand up.
Yeah, well, Andy doesn't get a decision here. It's up to the board. So I'd like the board to tell us what the board needs to make a decision. That's what we're here for.
I'd just like to hear Andy's opinion. It seemed like it's relevant to this conversation's vote.
So I'm going to move that we continue to elect our board members by Australian ballot.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
I'll second that for discussion purposes.
Okay, go ahead then, Mark. You discuss. Or did you say it all already?
Yeah, I mean, I think as it is, by going down this road, we are taking away representation from Dover residents. You're changing what Dover has done for however long Dover has done it for, and you are eliminating the opportunity for, let's say we get 200 people at a meeting, for 1,800 voters in the district from participating. I don't think that's democracy.
Okay, go ahead, Laura.
So I want to be very, very clear. I do not believe that we are taking away representation from Dover voters in doing this. I believe we are preserving their one person, one vote in doing this. Otherwise, I would not vote for it. I also believe in the tradition that the towns have of town meeting and annual meeting. We are changing how I'm hung up here, Richard, on the changing of just how we govern this district, and on the particular issue of how we elect governance of this district, I feel like we should have an Australian ballot. So there, that's what I have to say.
Okay.
I think we're going to lose that point, but that's what we have to say.
Dwight and/or Kate? Dwight?
This is Kate. Oh, go ahead, Dwight.
No, I hadn't heard anything. Kate, go ahead.
Oh, okay. I can totally see Mark's point, and like Mark, makes a super good one about, it's tricky for people to come out on like a Tuesday night, and it totally is, but it's one night a year that we're asking people to come out. And I know those concerns more than most people do. But I think, I've learned a lot about this process in the last couple of years, and I've learned a lot from Andy about the whole Vermont town meeting process, and then the voting from the floor and being an active participant in the thing versus just showing up and casting a ballot. So I think, showing up and voting and being part of the discussion really adds a lot to, the way that we do things in Vermont. And I kind of enjoy it for the school board process as well. I think it really creates a unique atmosphere versus like just casting a vote. So, and it does create an opportunity, and people everybody has the opportunity to show up.
That's not true.
It's not true at all.
No, everybody can show up. The
Sorry.
meeting's there.
I did not know that I was unmuted. I would like to speak when I have a chance.
Yeah, hang on a second. Dwight, you got anything to add?
No, nothing further, Rich. Thanks.
Okay. Go ahead, Andy.
So it's a really hard decision to make. I totally get that. And no matter what you do, there's going to be downsides. And no matter what you do, somebody's not going to be psyched with your decision, whether it's me or Mark. Don't let that bother you. Do what you think is correct for the people who elect you, right? One thing I would like to say, though, is that 60 signatures 30 days prior to the election is going to limit who can run for these positions. Showing up to a meeting, making it a priority and getting there and being nominated from the floor will not, in any way, shape, or form, come anywhere near limiting people's ability to run for office as much as 60 signatures 30 days prior to the meeting. You're not going to get the participation from the floor that you would by Australian ballot at town meeting. But it will also take away from people's incentive to show up to your annual district meeting if they think they're getting the business done at their town meeting 3 weeks prior. If you want to build the community of your school district, as the River Valley's Unified School District, you want to conduct your business at that meeting to the extent that you can, so that people show up and are invested in your group, not in the town of Dover, the town of Wardsboro, but in your group. But like I said, it's a tough decision, and vote your conscience and not necessarily what your friend Andy thinks. Thanks for letting me talk.
Hey, Andy, if you get 60 signatures, there's been some elections, that's all the votes I got, and I ran unopposed.
Right
so,
on.
Laura, you want...
I was going to say, do we know it's 60 signatures and not 1% anymore?
That's what...
It's 60 signatures.
Christopher had sent that out earlier.
I just
He was just checking.
checked it out while you've been discussing it again.
Thank
Okay.
you.
The one thing I want to say is it's not 60 signatures from Wardsboro or 60 signatures from Dover. It is 60 signatures within the Unified Union.
Thank you, sir. Laura, you had one more thing to say, and then we can have a vote on Mark's motion. Oh, Mark.
Yeah,
there's no
I think
Peter, so you gotta
I
write
think
it down.
the thing that I want to say is I want to
idea.
apologize to Kate. I thought that I was muted, and I did not intend to audibly disagree with your point. And that's all I have to say.
Kate's not going to accept it. She's shaking her head no. No. Are you all set, Kate?
Totally accepted. I totally accept it. We all have a lot of viewpoints and knowledge about different people, so that's something to keep in mind for sure. Thank you.
So I just like to say it was a good discussion. I'm glad we had it. And it is. We've tried to blend and we've tried to respect the, as the Wyndham Central Supervisory Union says, it's unity and freedom. I think that's New Hampshire's motto or something too, but no, let's live free and then die. But so, it could go either way. As like Andy said, 60 signatures is a lot, even if it's from two towns. Laura, I don't know how many you need to get on the ballot, the petition to run for office in the four towns, but it's 50. So we need more than we need to elect a state legislator, which I find interesting too. But again, if like Andy said, if you go out and get 60 signatures, you're probably going to be you're probably pretty guaranteed that you're going to be elected. And elections from the floor, we have seen times in Wardsboro, and I've attended Wardsboro meetings when, even on, at night where they've had nobody accept a nomination. Dwight, you were there for the one when we were first starting to think about forming the district, and you went around and asked everybody in the room, "What about you? What about you?" And nobody accepted. So somebody could just say, "Oh yeah, I'll do it," and they'll elect them because it's the only person that wanted the job, and maybe people that wanted it couldn't be there that night. So it's a really tough decision, but I think I'm going to ask for you to vote if everybody's ready. And I believe it'll probably be a roll call vote because I don't believe it's going to be unanimous. But Mark's motion, and also just so you know, Peter isn't here. So Mark's motion was to elect school directors by Australian ballot, or to move that article forward. To continue. Well, it's not a continue because Wardsboro does different. You're not continuing it.
That's true.
You're just continuing it for one town.
You're right.
So it's to move forward and have all people, all board members elected by Australian ballot. All those in favor of that, please signify so by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, please say nay.
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 Okay, it is not a unanimous vote. So we're going to move forward and do a roll call vote. I'm going to go by Mark first.
Yes.
Okay, so we have one yes. I'm going to go to Kate.
No.
Okay, I'm going to go to Dwight.
No.
You guys are killing me. Laura.
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to vote nay. So the motion doesn't carry. What I'm going to do is, Christopher, if it doesn't take a lot from you, could you just write this up both ways so that it shows that we would do it by ballot and do it so we can pick A or B, and at the next meeting, hopefully we'll have a full board and we'll have a full board vote. And the reason I voted nay is not that I want to vote from the floor, but I would like to have this be a full board, and I would also like, we've kind of thrown it out there, and I'd like everybody to think about it, and I'd like to have that decided on at the next meeting, and hopefully everybody will be here.
I can do it with both options.
Okay, and then, so I think what I'm taking away, my takeaway from this meeting with Chris.
For the record, you didn't have to do that. A tie would have been
Pushed
pushed.
it, right. Okay, I'm sorry. I just thought people were going to know why it didn't vote, why it didn't go. So, anyways, what I'd like to do is Christopher Leopold. Article 1 is all good. We're going to take Article 2 out. We're not going to have that vote in there. We're not going to vote on that. And then Article 3, we're going to make sure we get the budget out of there, and it's just going to be the election of the board, and we're going to have both options in there.
Got it.
And then next meeting we'll decide which one we want to take out in the final warning.
No, but you're taking out that first paragraph that he said we didn't have to take out.
The second article we're taking out. The second article he presented.
And then for the third of the three articles he presented, the first
Right, he's gonna
paragraph,
check-
he said we could take out the first sentence,
Right.
but we didn't have to.
We're going to have him check that because also that has about voting on the budget too.
Right, we'd have to amend
And
that.
he's just going to check that and make sure with the new paperwork that Andy sent to all of us, we're going to make sure that he sees that. Is that good with everybody?
Yes.
Are you good with that?
Thank you, Richard.
I don't want to take anything out. Historical context.
Right, no, we're taking, the Article 2 is going away, so it's going to stay the way it is.
But in Article 3, you just said we were eliminating the first paragraph.
No, I didn't. I said we don't need, we want to make sure that we can still vote the budget from the floor. However that's supposed to be in there, we want to make sure that's in there.
Okay,
That's what I'm saying. That's, I think, what we all agreed to.
yeah,
Okay. Attorney Leopold, one more quick thing. If you're still co-host, there were several questions, and Andy asked some that you kind of sent, and I think your answers were in red. Can we run through those real quick?
Sure. How many polling places are needed for the vote on the Articles of Agreement Amendment? And you need to maintain a polling place in Dover and one in Wardsboro. It's a meeting of the district, not of the individual towns. And it's the same polling locations that the towns have identified to the Secretary of State's office, which I believe they do annually.
Yep.
I think we've talked a little bit about how school board members can be elected. They either can be elected by Australian ballot, or they can be elected via the floor. You're presently doing both. You can't do both. It's got to be one or the other under this new system. Are there any restrictions? The nominating procedures are somewhat different than they are now. The biggest difference is the 60 with the Australian ballot, and you have the same nominating process for floor votes. Andy?
Yes, Mr. Leopold. I had a question, and oh God, my brain's fried. What was my question? It was, so we're voting by Australian ballot to change the Articles of Agreement to decide how to elect our board of directors, our directors. Moving forward, will we need an Australian vote to change this particular part of the Articles of Agreement, or is there, can this board change it at one of their meetings? I remember there being an opportunity for them to change some of the Articles of Agreement themselves. Would this be one after this vote?
No, it would have to be changed by the voters.
Okay, thank you.
Just real quick too, because that was a really good point Andy brought up. The things that were actually that were listed in the Articles of Agreement when we present them to the voters, those items have to be changed by the electorate. And that was an opinion we got last time, was that was not specific in how we voted. So, and it wasn't specifically mentioned in the summary page. So that's why we were able to change that. And this will change. Andy, that's a good point. It won't allow us to just do it by the board in the future. Go ahead, sir.
Who's in charge of the vote on the Articles of Agreement, the amendments? It's a shared responsibility between the district clerk and the local election officials. It's the clerk who essentially puts the election process in motion, warns the vote, produces the ballot under state law. And that's a clarification of what was the law prior to July 1 of this year. The local election officials, specifically the Board of Civil Authority, are responsible for supervising the polls, the checklist, checking in voters, distributing ballots, and securing the ballot box. And then, if you're voting, they have to then transport a locked ballot box to a central location designated by the district clerk, commingled with the other town's ballots, and counted by members of the BCA under the supervision of the district clerk, all pursuant to this new statute 741 in Title 16. The district clerk reports the election results, and 741 also specifies that the results have to be compiled and announced 24 hours after the polls closed. Any questions?
Andy.
Under,
Oh,
go ahead.
so Andy, just so I think I got this right. Except for the timeline, which we'll have to talk with you about further, and I don't think tonight we'll figure it out. Are all your questions taken care of? Everything I wrote down that you asked, I think, are he kind of covered.
Yeah, I think so as well. You know, if you're not going to touch on, printing ballots, programming tabulators versus hand counting and all that business, I'm thinking I'm pretty good.
So Andy, what
good.
I'm thinking is let's figure out what we're actually going to present, and that'll be at the next meeting, and then maybe whichever meeting's better for you, the next one or the first one in December, we'll get together with you again and then try to figure out the timeline and how to make that all work well for you. Does that work for you?
It does. Yeah, that should work.
Probably
That should
not.
work.
Probably not the next one because that's the middle of the Vermont national holiday. So maybe the first in December we'll put you back on.
Yeah, I might not make that one.
Okay.
I'll be wearing orange somewhere.
There you go, buddy. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Andy.
Thank you, folks. Thank you, Mr. Leopold. Appreciate
You're
it.
welcome, Mr. McLean.
Laura, you had a question. Go ahead.
Just, Richard, I'm apologizing. I have to duck out and I'll be back.
Okay. Thank you, Laura. So, are there any other questions for Attorney Leopold?
One quick clarification that I want to make, Rich, is that the February vote is one of the options. I found out just before the meeting this afternoon that your annual meeting date for 2023 is March 28. And so I think holding a February date, a special meeting, is not an option. And I think if you were going to hold a vote on the amendments in prior to town meeting day, you'd need to hold it in January, not in February.
Okay, but we could also use that annual meeting date to do the vote on the articles, and then push our annual meeting off for a month or so after that, couldn't we?
You could have that. You'd still have to have a vote on postponing your annual meeting date. Because you as a board, you can't unilaterally change that once the voters have said it, Rich.
I thought the Secretary of State was still giving some leeway on that. Does that end December 31st or something?
January 15th.
January 15th.
Can I jump in just quickly, Rich?
Yeah, go ahead, Andy.
The other thing is, if you hold the amendment votes on town meeting day and postpone your annual meeting, if you're going to elect these school board members at your annual meeting, you'll have to have the 2 polling places, which, is a possibility, but you'll have to help me find the people who are going to man the polling place in the other town where the meeting isn't, or hold the election on a day that is not your annual meeting.
Also, though, couldn't we have the polling go to like 6 o'clock and do the annual meeting at 7?
I think by law, well, I know town elections go to 7. Sometimes you can open them at 10, but they got to go to 7. I don't know about Title 16.
Do you know?
There's not a specification in Title 16. It's controlled by Title 17.
Which is what Andy just mentioned.
Which is the local, includes the local election provisions.
Andy, what about holding an election till 7, and then since everything's got to be commingled, could we have the annual meeting at 7:30? Because it'll be in one of the town or the other, and then those people at that polling place can bring the stuff over. we could hold the annual meeting, and then you could do the vote count the next day, and we'll make the board assist you as election officials. All those.
That's the best idea I've heard all night, Rich. Nice job.
Well, I mean, I think
I never thought of that.
But we're because you can
fantastic idea.
You can appoint us as your assistant.
Exactly. Well, I didn't say it, but if you vote to have an Australian ballot election, you guys are counting ballots. I don't care if you're on the BCA or not. You need to be there.
No, and we should be.
But your idea is fantastic, Rich.
Okay, but I think that's something we can deal with at the next meeting in December, can't we?
Yep.
Okay, so let's do that if everybody's okay with that.
If you're gonna have that meeting in January to do your articles, though, like Chris was saying, you'll have to warn that 30 days prior. So an early December meeting.
Yeah, it'll be December 5th. Mark, do you know?
What?
What's the first Monday in December, anybody? The 5th, right?
It is the first Monday is the 5th.
Yeah, so we would meet on the 5th, Andy.
That should do it.
So we could warn it, a couple weeks later. So we could do a middle January vote. Still have 30 days.
Yeah, and get your signatures.
Yeah. Okay.
If it goes that way.
Okay, let's do that, folks. Let's table this now, and I think we got everything we need. I think your long list, Chris, is shortened up quite a bit for you.
Sounds good.
Okay, and then Bill, you're going to make sure you get him what's currently there on the budgeting, so we can make sure we memorialize that.
Yes, I'm on top of that.
Okay. So I think that's really good. Let's close that part of the meeting. Attorney Leopold, thank you very much. You've been very helpful, and I'm glad you're here to to guide us through this process.
Take care, Rich. Have a good night.
Thank you. So I would ask if somebody can make a motion for an executive session. I have a brief executive session item. You want to read it? Here.
Not really.
Oh.
I move to find the premature general public knowledge regarding labor relations agreement with employees would put the board at substantial disadvantage because the school board's risk disclosing its negotiation strategy if the proposed contract terms are discussed in public.
So can I have a second to that motion?
Kate seconds.
Okay, thank you, Kate. Kate moved, Mark moved, Kate seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 It's a unanimous decision. You want to read that second one?
I make a motion for the board to enter executive session under Title I, Section 313 of the Vermont Statutes for Labor Relations Agreement with Employees 313A1, letter I, River Valley's Master Agreement Negotiations.
Do we have a second?
Kate seconds.
Okay, thank you, Kate. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, it's a unanimous decision. So everybody, we're going to stick you in the waiting room for a minute, I hope, and we'll be right back. We came out of executive session, and the superintendent's going to write a letter in response to the association in regards to our future negotiations. So we're moving back into our regular agenda. Members, additions or deletions to the agenda, if there are any or aren't any. I see some head shaking, no, I think. I see Matt shaking his head, yes. Did you have something, Matt? Oh, no, I'm sorry. Members of the public, we still have a few people from the public. Any comments from the public? Don't see any. Members of the staff? I don't think we have any staff, do we? Is that everybody?
Stephanie's on.
No, I know. She's got her own little section.
Yep, it should be everyone that's 12 of us.
Okay. So, if there's no members of the staff, then Stephanie, presentations, special education update. Mark had a specific question. I don't know if you got that. His specific, I believe, was how do people know, or how are people told how to access services if they need them. And I thought it would be a good time for you to do a quick 5 or 10 minute dog and pony show. I know there's some exciting stuff going on with your collaborative there, and I thought you could maybe talk about that a little bit and hopefully answer Mark's question.
Sure thing. And thank you guys for having me. I will do my best, but I am just getting over COVID for the second time, and I apologize for any omissions here. So just hanging in with this time zone, or not time zone, the time change too. So there are basically like 4 pathways for students to get into special education. One is we have responsibilities to any taxpayers in the Wyndham Central Supervisory Union, so any towns within our supervisory union. If any parent or guardian has a request, even if the student is homeschooled or whatever, we would consider their request for an evaluation under child find responsibilities. So that's one pathway, and we advertise every year to everybody for that. So if they come to us and they say, my child's homeschooled, but I'm curious about their abilities in learning, I would like to get an assessment done, we would accept that, and then we would meet and start that process. Another is if a parent or guardian requests, so say a student is attending one of our schools and a parent or guardian has some concerns, they might, go to the school or teacher or somebody to say, hey, I have some concerns. I would like to get an evaluation of my child. That request comes to us, and then we meet within 15 calendar days to consider that request. We either meet or, contact them for more information. And we could proceed with the evaluation, or we could decide not to, but we would definitely need data if we were not proceeding with it. We would want to have a really good reason for why we wouldn't proceed, but more often than not, we do. Another pathway is if a student moves into our supervisory union and is already on an IEP from a different state or another town in Vermont. And then the fourth way is through school referrals, and those are very objective nowadays. We have a very strong local comprehensive assessment system. So students who are performing in the 49th percentile or lower are looked at, more deeply to make sure that they're able to meet the proficiencies in their classes. So they might be picked up for intervention. They'll have progress monitoring. They'll be supported in making sure that we are making progress with them. So that is entirely within the multi-tiered system of support, and that is not yet at the special ed level in that realm. If the student has a couple of rounds of intervention, and that includes progress monitoring and close analysis, and they find that they are not making the progress that's expected, or there's a myriad of concerns or challenges, that student could be referred for a special education evaluation. But we would be assuming that the teacher and the academic support teacher or whoever's providing the intervention would be meeting with the principal, would be talking about the student. They might have an educational support plan, which is also called an EST. And they would be really looking closely, pulling in the family members to make sure that they're aware of what challenges might be coming up, and eventually could lead to a special education evaluation if there are additional concerns and feel like the team needs more information to meet that student's needs. So those are kind of the pathways. And of course, we already have some students on IEPs now, but that is kind of like the dog and pony show of the multi-tiered system of support and how we catch students early. And the whole point of having a multi-tiered system of support is to make sure that students don't have to fail or get to super high challenging levels in order to get support or intervention. So we partner with the schools, we work within the systems, and now with Act 173 funding changes in the state of Vermont, special education is able to be a little more flexible with who they're working with. So sometimes in a school system, the team, might meet to review the local comprehensive assessment system, like benchmark data, and it might be deemed that a student is in need of, maybe Wilson reading program or some kind of different, more intensive level of support. And it may be that that student doesn't need specialized instruction, but they feel that the special educator is the most appropriate person to meet that student's needs. That student may be folded into another group that's already in existence with the special educator. So the student could be having access to more intensive level supports. But the difference would be that they may not need it as long term as somebody who is eligible for special ed, who usually that is every 3 years that we're reevaluating students on IEPs. So that's kind of the overview, but the big gist of what we're trying to work on this year is to be able to be more flexible and break down those silos and make special education more available. So one of the things that we're trying to do is build in tangent with principals, build up systems where students maybe are struggling with social, emotional kinds of needs or behavioral needs, and really be either a resource to help with support plans or strategies, or to develop school-wide paraeducators. So we do have a few school systems where we had enough students on IEPs who were in need of maybe hourly support from a paraeducator, but they didn't need the entire hour. So those paraeducators are now available to support other students who have similar needs. So we've developed sensory rooms, break rooms, strategies, all kinds of responsive supports for students in those kinds of situations. The goal of the multi-tiered system of support is to be able to have the universal or core instruction meet the needs of most students. So we're really aiming for 80 to 85% of students' needs to be met in the general education classroom. And then we know there are some students who might need more targeted intervention to kind of close a gap that they might have. And then we have intensive, as right now in the system is more the special education level of very intensive support. So we're trying to really have it be that everybody has universal or core instruction. Some get a little bit more with targeted, and others get a little tiny bit of intensive. So we're trying to get it so that students are not just like, say they're it's English class and they also need literacy instruction, they're not missing their core instruction at grade level to get their special education or targeted instruction. We're trying to make it so that they have both, so that they're receiving the core instruction and the intervention support level. So everything is data driven, so we're using progress monitoring data, we're using that benchmark data, we're using all this information to really inform us, but we're also using our professional knowledge of students and their learning process and analyzing year over year and really thinking about their needs individually. So I feel very fortunate working in the supervisory union in this capacity, because I get to see everybody really working together to meet the students' needs. And that students don't have to get to the lowest 15th percentile in order to get the support that they need. They're picked up early. So some of the great work that we've all done together is looking at where are we spending our resources and how are we meeting students' needs. So the exciting news this year is that we have 0 students in elementary in out-of-district placements. So they are being educated with their peers in their communities, and it's going super well. That's because of the support everybody has given around creating an in-district program, creating these school-wide paraeducator roles, getting these sensory pieces in place, and then working together in consultation with teachers and really getting in there quicker before there are more significant issues. And then the collaborative is a very interesting process that we were really lucky with timing. So the Vermont Learning Collaborative was a nonprofit 501c3 in Brattleboro, Vermont. And they had several board members who really wanted to retire and move on. And they had some liquid assets and originally had some buildings and things like that, but then it was just liquidized. So they had some assets that they didn't want to just drop. They could donate it to another 501c3, or they could kind of pass it on to all of us. So we worked really hard over a period of probably a year, maybe a year and a half, working with superintendents, working with directors of special ed, and really trying to figure out if we could take over that collaborative. And we knew there were some really successful models throughout the nation, but we really didn't know, like we were all working full time, everything was kind of busy. We were just getting off the coattails of COVID and trying to manage so many pieces of information and tasks. But when the opportunity came up and it seemed like it was a good use of our time, a few of us became board members and started the original takeover, and now we are fully operated by supervisory union employees. And this is in their spare time. And what we're working on is we did a humongous analysis of what principals, superintendents, directors of special ed over 8 supervisory unions felt was needed for collaboration or different opportunities, and where they struggled the most and things like that. So we hired New Solutions K-12, who is run by Nate Levinson, who was part of the district management group, who did our huge special ed study about 7-8 years ago. And so he's familiar with a lot of the Vermont supervisory unions. And so they did this huge analysis with all those stakeholders and gathered up 3 to 4 key items that they felt we should first focus on. So we're in the process right now of getting those pieces prepared. We've hired New Solutions to help us for this interim year. And then we are in the process, we've advertised for the position of an executive director. And so we're hopeful that we'll either hire somebody in like the January, February timeframe or July, and it could be part-time or full-time. And then that person will be pushing go on these projects. So we'll have it pretty lined up, they'll push go, and then they'll continue to be the person reaching out to supervisory unions and continuing to work with the folks involved to try to make sure we're addressing things regionally as well. Things like hard to fill positions, like some supervisory unions maybe need 0.25 of a physical therapist, or they need 0.75 or whatever. So they're looking at collaborating together to say, okay, so the collaborative would hire a 1.0 person. They would have this supervisory union have 0.75. This other one would have 0.25, and really helping us with advertising and reaching out to bigger areas, because we are all struggling trying to find some of the same staff. So there's that kind of a thing. There are options for considering in-district programming or regional programming, things like that, and making sure that it's all incentivized. So say school like Dover or Wardsboro wanted to be the host for a certain program, maybe the 3 or 4 supervisory unions would want to be part of that. They would get support from the collaborative in creating that kind of opportunity, and then we'd make sure that Dover or Wardsboro had a nice incentive for doing that, and not just paying for the electricity or the room or those kinds of things, but deeper level supports that they could have access to, like a board certified behavior analyst or different kinds of resources like that. So that's kind of the really fast overview of the collaborative work. And I'm just gonna invite Tammy and Matt to just let me know if I missed anything from your principal perspectives, and then Bill from the superintendent perspectives. Good, looks like Matt's saying good, Tammy's probably good. Okay.
Yeah, I would just add that I think that Rich is probably very comfortable imagining what it looks like, because when you run a supervisory union and you look at individual districts, and then you look at how you're going to serve all those individual districts, the WCSU has been operating that way for a couple decades, where if you needed a music teacher for .1, you could hire them at the supervisory union level and spread that out. What you're talking about, Steph, is a good analogy, is doing that across 8 supervisory unions, so that when you have a physical therapist or occupational therapist or speech therapist, or opportunities to improve or enhance individual programs, you could draw from a larger pool. So I think the infrastructure, and as you pointed out, the last 18 to 2 years of just creating the infrastructure is why this isn't done very often in Vermont. So I give you a lot of credit, Stephanie, for being the president of the Board of Trustees and shepherding this to the program level of working with Nate Levinson's group so that we can actually hire an executive director. But I think the analogy of working as a SU and then working with multiple SUs is kind of a helpful imagination.
Perfect. Thanks, Bill. And Mark, were there any other questions that I could answer or any questions others have?
Sorry. No, the pathways were really answered my question, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
Mark
You're
also
welcome.
brought up the collaborative last meeting, and so it was really kind of nice that you were coming to this meeting too to answer that.
Yeah.
Again,
It's
you
good
know,
work that everybody's doing, and I definitely appreciate the support of everybody. It's pretty neat to be able to think at that, higher level of what could we do together to broaden options for everybody in rural situations.
Thank you. Does anybody else have anything for Stephanie, or can we let her go recover from round 2, round 2, COVID 22?
Try to avoid round 3.
I know. I'm hoping it keeps getting milder, though.
Okay.
All right.
Andy, you're still
Thank you,
here.
guys. Thank you guys very much. And just let me know if any other questions come up. I'm happy to hop in and present anything.
Thank you. We really appreciate
guys.
Stephanie.
No
Thanks,
problem.
Stephanie.
Thank you, guys.
Feel better.
Thank you.
So that was our presentation for tonight. Mark and I enjoyed popcorn. If you guys had all been here, you could have shared it with us. How was it, Mark?
Covered in way too much butter.
There you go. Old business. So financials. I know that the central office sent out the financials in the amount of, this is a big number, $635,948.17.
I'll move to approve.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Kate will second.
Kate will second. I'm just going to read it again so that Peter has a better time of finding it. But it's 635,948.17. Is Mark and I have them here. We looked through them all, and I looked through the checks earlier. Was there any questions from anybody? Go ahead, Chad.
I have a couple of questions. One for student privacy. Since these documents are made public, correct?
No.
We want students
No, the only
made.
the only document that's made public is the check register. The one that we were sent includes an additional page, which has been eliminated. The very last page of it has been eliminated from what was made public because it contained account numbers. But it doesn't have any personal information on it. What was made
Okay,
public.
very good. So I just noticed that in the invoices from some of the schools we send to, the students are listed individually by name, address, and so on. So I just want to make sure that they're, protected as they should be.
Yeah, the only thing we post, Chad, is your social security number.
We'll get you far.
No, okay.
And real quick, just refresh my memory. I know we've got the end report in our documents for tonight. What is the amount per student that we are remitting this year for each school?
Oh,
up to 16.9. 16.9?
Up to, say again?
I thought it was 19 too.
yeah, it's 19.2.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Hang on a second. I'm not going to be able to find it. Bill, do you remember off the top of your head? Bill's the numbers guy. Where's better than
I'll
me?
say 19.1.
Everything I was reading today had 19.2, but I didn't cross-check it against the book
Yeah,
or,
so
the articles from last year.
I would say it's 19.2 because I'm seeing one here that's 19. That 9,600 is half of 19.2. So that would be, I believe it's 19.2, Chad. But Bill's gonna check it out and send us an email.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I just want to make sure because Looking at it at the face, it just seemed higher than what we had discussed throughout the budgeting, but
Actually, you know
I
what?
just want to verify with.
It's in this
in the-
report right here. $19.2. It was Article 9 of our report of the meeting last year. So it's up to. So you're going to see some that are less. Like I know Mountain
Sure.
School only goes up to 8th grade, so that's a lower number. And some of the other ones that they charge less, but it's up to that amount. That's the Burton rate.
Perfect.
Anything else, sir?
Not at this time. Thank you.
Oh,
Go ahead.
so we vote on a high school rate, the Burton rate. We don't vote on a middle school rate. So
Well, it's all tuition rates.
So
So it's up to 19.2.
regardless of
Set the
middle or high
tuition.
school.
What we set was the voters of the River Valley Union School District set the annual tuition rate to approved independent schools at 19.2 Burton sending school tuition for the 22-23 school year. But we don't pay, like if somebody's only charges 16, we don't give anybody the extra $3,200.
No, I understand that.
Yeah, okay. Is everybody good with that? We used to vote separate rates and just got too crazy. Okay, so we have a motion on the floor in a second. Are you guys ready to vote? You all ready to vote? Seeing head shaking yes. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Anybody?
Aye.
Oh, no, it appears to be unanimous. Dwight checked in. It is unanimous, so let's move on. Under old business, I don't know why, Kate, I think we missed it, but we warned C13 and F2. So they should be on this to approve.
I just noticed that.
So,
Oh, I was so focused in on making sure that we got C10 to warn
yeah.
for this round that I forgot to even
So-
talk about that. I'm sorry, Mark. I totally missed that.
So since they aren't on the agenda, I would prefer we hold off and we'll do them at the next meeting. So can you just make a note of that, Bill, that we have C13 and F2. Last meeting we voted to warn them, and now we need to vote to approve them.
The other titles?
Yes. Students who are homeless and non-discriminatory mascots.
Right. Okay.
Bill, are you good with that, sir?
Yes, C13 and F2 will be on the agenda for November 21st to adopt.
Okay, and then hopefully, possibly C10.
And they're to adopt for. Oh, those were both new, weren't they? No,
Well,
one
these
was
you
new.
had major changes that you recommended
And
last meeting.
F2 was new.
Right, and C13, you
C13
said there was
was-
enough changes that you wanted us to warn it.
Right, but adopted for as a revision, not
Right.
as a new.
Well, it doesn't matter. It's a revised. It's going to show that we have to vote to adopt it. And then
It matters on what date I put on the actual document.
okay, so does anybody else have any other? Oh, in old business, the solar. I did send an email to the lady saying, hey, the board was concerned because there's this new survey. Send it to us, and they haven't responded, so I haven't followed up. She can respond back to us. Ball's in her court. Does anybody else have any other old business? No. I see some head shaking. No. You all set with old business?
Yeah, you want to take C10 separately here. so-
No, that's on the agenda.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so the next thing is I'm going to move new business around a little bit. The superintendent sent out his cabinet report. Does anybody have anything for him on that? Okay, and then let's do the annual report. Just there was some discussion, and we agreed to have this on, so they attached copies of it in black and white. It almost looks better in black and white than it did in color. At least I know there was some issues with the lines and stuff, or the setup. So, Bill, just real brief, you have somebody in your office who's going to shepherd this through for us, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So, I think I know we made a bunch of changes. I remember Laura wanted to get something on one page or add something, and I thought Mark had an update last year, but are we, how is that going to work? Again, is it going to be the same thing this year? We'll submit it to you, or you'll submit us a mock-up, and then we get to make comments before it goes out?
Yes, unless you guys have thoughts you want to incorporate before the first draft comes to you.
Okay, so I had asked if anybody had anything that they want to make suggestions that they can start thinking about. Mark's raised his hand, and we'll just go around the board. Go ahead.
So, Bill, we'll have new RVUSD and logos for the, English. A new logo for the district and for each school, hopefully before this goes out. So, but make sure I get those to you once we have those finished. And then the only other thing was last year I had requested that we include, and where is it? It was on the page having to do with the secondary tuition. So
11?
Yeah, it's 11. I requested that we include had it on tip of my tongue.
You want to come back to you?
Yeah, come back to me.
Okay, we're going to give Mark a break. Kate, you got anything? Kate or Dwight or Chad?
No additions. Yeah. Nope, no additions for next year.
Okay. Chad?
I'm good at the moment.
Okay. Mark, send us an email when you remember it, or
Yeah,
just we'll bring it up.
Totally blanked.
Okay.
Wasn't there something about historicals that came up at the annual meeting?
I don't know. I don't recall that. But
If I remember, I'll bring it up the next time.
okay. I think I mentioned the superintendent's cabinet report went out. Does anybody else have anything for Bill, or can we let him go? Going once, going twice, 3 times, sold. Bill, you're out of here.
Thanks, guys.
All right, Bill.
Good night.
Principal's report comes next meeting for us. We get the cabinet report the first meeting, principal second. So do you have anything, Matt or Tammy, that you need to inform us about right now?
One thing, the survey results are in from the parent survey that went out, and I would love a spot on the agenda, possibly, if Matt agrees, at the next meeting to just go over the results and share them with the board. I think it would be good information to share with all of you.
That go out only to parents or to the
It
community?
was a parent survey.
Just sign there. There's 2 of them.
Oh, there are 2. Sorry.
Okay, so Kate is the one that keeps us on track for agenda items. Send an
I'm putting a
email
note right now.
and send an email to Bill
Okay.
and Kate and I, just so we remember that. Was that all you had, Tammy?
Yes, our first and second grade teacher is officially on maternity leave, so I thought that I should let the board know about that as well.
Okay. Matthew?
That's
That was rather ominous the way you said that.
Oh no, I can't.
You're in trouble,
Good seeing
Matthew.
you guys. I appreciate being able to be here remotely tonight. No, nothing really new, just that we've had quite a bit of, sickness in the last couple of few days or week or so. But the parents are doing a really great job of keeping the kids home when they're sick, and the nurses handling things. And so doesn't look like a big COVID outbreak or a big flu outbreak, but definitely those symptoms are there. Other than that, West River has stepped in to help us a little bit with a transportation problem. Really appreciate that partnership with those guys, and plugging along.
Mr. Block said he would love to drive a school bus. It's something he's always dreamed of, so make sure next time he's at the school you get him the application, okay?
You bet. I've got one for Meredith too.
Okay. I wasn't gonna pick on both of them, only one at a time. So anyways, if you folks have nothing, I'm going to move us into policy C10, warn for revision. So that was in our packet. Kate and Mark, take it away.
Easy one. We talked about this at the last meeting. It is the only change in this is on the last page in the appendix. We added Tracy Bartlett as a designated employee. Other than that, there are no other changes.
But that's a significant change.
We felt that the committee felt it was significant enough a change that it should be warned for the public.
So would you like to do that?
I will move that we warn C10 policy on the prevention of harassment, hazing, and bullying of students for revision.
Second, anybody?
Kate will second that.
Okay, we have a second by Kate and a motion by Mark. So this was after our lengthy discussion. This was adjusted. So is there any discussion from the board? Go ahead.
I just want to make sure there were two policies we discussed at the last meeting.
Right.
Okay, this one, there was no change made to this after the last meeting. It was just because it wasn't on the agenda in the last meeting.
Sorry.
So that's why we got moved to this one. The other one, I don't remember the number. The policy committee we haven't met again yet. So
To discuss it.
Yeah.
Okay. So I stand corrected. It was supposed to be discussed, but it wasn't on the agenda. So just like this week, we chose not, or this meeting, we chose not to push it off. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Oh, it's definitely a unanimous decision. Okay. I made a little change with Kate, and I talked about it with Bill when we set up the agenda. And if you're going to notice, the next items are the consent agenda, and I moved them to the end. And the reason I did that is so that if people are here, like we had, we had Stephanie here earlier and Bill and the attorney, so that we're not holding people for kind of the mundane stuff that we do. So I have consent agenda, the minutes of the October 17th, 2022 meeting. Did everybody get to review them? Were there any comments, questions?
Rich, I was present, was I not?
Are you not on there?
You were.
I don't think so.
You were in and out. I remember.
Dad was there.
You were in and out. You were in a car, I think. So you should be on
Fair.
there.
Oh, you are missed. You know why? They wanted to keep it equal with administration, so they didn't want us to outnumber the administration.
So Chad needs to get added.
Yeah, no, we'll do that, Chad. So the consent agenda, the River Valley, the board, we need to note that Chad was there via Zoom.
Weren't you at our last meeting?
Probably.
It says Peter.
Well, Peter was there too. Oh, Peter Kelleher.
Yeah.
No, you weren't at the last meeting, were you? Or was it the one before you missed?
What was the date?
October 17th.
It was at the Dover School.
Do you want the list of who I recorded?
We'll just ask Peter to check that. You know what? Let's put this one off. Andy McLean wasn't there either because I thought we said he couldn't be available. Somewhere in the consent in the agenda it says district clerk feedback, clerk not present. Folks, let's hold off on this one till the next meeting. I have no correspondence matter, Tammy. Anything? That's it, folks. I got nothing else except it's 10 of 7, so I don't know what time it is where Dwight is, but What time is it, Dwight? 5 o'clock? Good, it's just in time for dinner. Somebody want to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn
Perfect.
at 6:50 p.m.
Do we have a second? All in favor? Everybody say aye.
Yay. Thank you.